Slide action. Love it.
And that, my friends, is the kickoff to the home football season for the Clemson Tigers. Welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good. Happy Sunday afternoon, everybody.
Happy Sunday. We have a great show. We've kicked off the season at home now. The Colorado Buffaloes have doubled their wins from last season. The SEC West is losing more than football games, in my opinion at least. And our tailgating was simply a great time yesterday. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and on all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
And don't forget about Ruben's Food, Sports, Spirits, and Catering. It's a great place to eat, especially for Clemson fans, with the best wings around, and two locations. One's at 1083 Batesville Road in Greer, and one is at 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont, or you can find them at rubensc.com. Go check out Rubens.
Rubens, all right, and Diamond X Products, we'll get to them in a second.
Correct.
But one thing we want to point out, we do not, our guest canceled at the last minute. If you see the name of our show today, it's Row, Row, Row Their Boat. And unfortunately, we do not have the ladies from United Row with us today. They had to cancel or reschedule at the last minute. So they will be back with us in just a couple of weeks. But we will go ahead and start promoting for these ladies. If you don't know, I've been kind of keeping this a secret or whatever because I think it's kind of cool. But these are ladies from Clemson, Anna and Jenny, former Clemson rowers who plan to row across the Pacific, as in the ocean. And they're not doing it just for fun. They're raising awareness and money for the Hear Her Roar at Clemson. I think that's an IPTAY thing, but it's definitely for female athletes and the female sports. So it's a great cause, and we're going to go ahead and start promoting them, like I said, and they will be with us on the 24th. So that is 2 Sundays from now. So no guest, though. We can get straight into our thoughts on the Clemson game. So just pointing out the obvious slow start. It was very frustrating. I'm going to cross my fingers that the turnovers are going to stop. But we finally started playing the way we know how to play, and maybe we finally got all the jitters out. Maybe it took being at home to get the jitters out. Bailey, what do you think?
Well, I went back and I looked, and if you eliminate, and it's hard to eliminate turnovers, but let's say we don't turn the ball over in the first 2 games. We're 2-0, and then we're still ranked in the top 10. It's just funny, a bad decision on a throw led to a touchdown, and then a fumble return down to the 1 yard line, or the fumble that cost us on 4th down, and then something else. So it's just you put Charleston Southern in a position they should not be in, which is having the ability to score. If we don't turn the ball over, they score 3 points all day. All right,
the whole day. And
if we don't turn it over at Duke twice, 3 times inside the way down in the red zone, then we probably score those touchdowns and win that game. So it's just look, the more we talk about it, the more that they're getting hammered at practice on protecting the football. So let the coaches handle it.
So it's a situational thing, but it's not just turnovers. In my opinion, it's the situations where those turnovers happened. Just throwing the ball up for grabs on, I think there was 1 4th down, especially out in the flats. That's a big no-no. And then, when you are in a goal line situation, you got to expect even a little more. I mean, it's Division I Power 5 college football. There's always contact, but at any level, when you're in the red zone, you tighten up your chin strap a little bit more. You protect the ball a little bit better. And that just certain times when, if we fumble in the middle of the field, and they recover on the 50 or throw an interception over the middle of the field 20 yards down, it's like a punt kind of thing. That's not what we're doing. It seems like so far our turnovers have been like worst case scenario turnovers. So, but I agree with you that I'm sure they're definitely working on it.
I'm going with Cade. This is going to be historic. run that
Historic.
we're about to go on.
It's been pretty historic so far. So hopefully
I'm
we can.
pulling for the Tigers. We're spoiled rotten.
Well, we are, and two, that's another thing I want to point out is we're not the only. This is not starting slow early in a game to an inferior team is not new. I mean, we've been up against these schools that we pay to, let us have
Right.
a extra home game. There's been plenty of times where it's been close for a quarter or so, and just yesterday, our friends in Columbia took them a while to get going against the Paladins. If anybody remembers that game last night, but they, did what they needed to do and won by 20 or some odd points. And then Tennessee had a little trouble with Austin P. I think they were up 9-6 at halftime or something. And then
Yeah,
ended
and
up
Austin
winning by
P
30.
actually had an offensive lineman accidentally tackle his quarterback. You ought to see it. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It was like a rollout, and the lineman was just kind of got lost, and he fell down, and the quarterback just tripped over him.
I do want to ask one question, though, and this is I think I know the answer to the question, or at least I know what I think the answer is, but it's just one of those questions that comes to my brain, and if you know how my brain works, then you never know what kind of questions are going to come out of the brain. So Dabo has been
We're still trying to figure that out.
Has been very vocal, about pointing out that the college level is the only level that does not have some type of preseason game. So I'm going really deep here. I'm going straight into the subconscious. Is there a chance that there's something in the subconscious of how he prepares the team, wishing there was preseason games or scrimmages that kind of puts Clemson in a situation where they need a game or two to get going? I mean, there's no way to answer that. Even Dabo wouldn't know the answer to that question because I'm literally asking about his subconscious. But
well, I mean, I don't think there's any it's just he's right. So what teams used to do was build in Charleston Southern, Florida Atlantic as the first two games, and
right.
those were the scrimmages.
Correct.
Now with television the way it is, you have to play like a couple years ago, Georgia and Charlotte.
Whew.
That's a tough first game.
Yeah, that's a tough call, without a doubt. And
honestly,
really
looking back on it, Clemson played great in that game.
Dang right.
I mean, because Georgia was real good, and Clemson
they were
was
very,
too. But
I think they went on to win the Navy.
Yeah, it's just hard to say. I mean, you're never gonna unless you just say no. We don't want to be on national television the first week of the year. We want to play.
Yeah, and that's never going to happen.
Right.
All right. So anyway, we can make everybody wonder about Dabo's subconscious, and till the cows come home.
You and Sigmund Freud can figure that one out.
Yeah, we'll keep that on the brain. But we will definitely be back Wednesday night to preview the game against FAU, so we can move on to a couple of other big games from the weekend, like the Colorado Primetimers, 2-0, the talk of the nation. I'm not surprised. I don't think you're surprised, but they're 2 games in. We talked about not giving teams at least 3 games to figure out how good they are, but I think with these 2 games, you can definitely tell that it was no fluke that they beat TCU, no fluke that they beat Nebraska, but it's going to be another game or two before we figure out they're a real contender as far as a conference championship or anything, a top 25 or top 10 team maybe. But
they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. They have Colorado State next week, and it'll be week 4 against Oregon. Then we'll know for sure. And honestly, and I know Dion is not a moral victory type guy. I mean, you don't have to really know him personally to know that. But if they play Oregon tough at all, they'll still be way, way, way better than they were last year. But I have a question.
Dion, they're not going to play well. They're going to play to win.
They're going to play to win. Well, let me just ask one question. I must have missed something. And, of course, the drama is way more fun than the game. What in the world did Matt Rule say that was so personal, quote unquote, that got everybody all riled up?
Well, it's what he has said since the spring. He made little comments that weren't necessarily directed at Colorado, but they were Like, hey, I'm so thankful the Nebraska social media posts show our players working and not talking. Things like that. I I don't need a camera to follow me into a meeting, that kind of thing. But this week, Dion's son took exception to Colorado having a meeting at midfield when they did their walkthrough on the Buffalo in the middle of the field.
Oh, no, okay. So it was kind of a combination of some little things
Right.
that they
It's a lot of built up frustration.
a lot of built up stuff. Well, that's really not smart to give people locker room material, but whatever. That answers that question then. But they definitely, we talk about predictions. We definitely predicted exactly what would happen, that the Colorado Buffalo fans had a fun fan experience in Boulder this past Saturday. So they had a lot of energy. Speaking of energy, the fun fans have an opportunity for you. You can use the QR code on the screen. You can go to the link that we'll post in our social media, and it will take you directly to a link to buy Dubby energy drinks with a 10% off discount. If you go to dubby.gg to order, just enter promo code FUNFANS for the 10% discount. So it's energy without the jitters. So the big,
it's all natural energy.
all natural. Yes.
Yes. So let's make sure we're promoting something that's not gonna make
All
your heart race, but it's all natural energy that's been derived by scientists somewhere.
All natural.
Yes.
All right. So the big game that was promoted on ESPN was Texas and Alabama. Now, I said last week I didn't see what was so good about Texas or their quarterback, and I'll stick with my statement about the quarterback still being a little bit inconsistent on accuracy, but his passes, all you gotta do is watch the game. He's inconsistent here, but the timing routes, over the top stuff. He was just nailing that. The receiver run under the ball. They had a lot of I don't know, normally they're 50-50 balls, but they went about 80% Texas way. But I think what won the game for them was their defense. Did you get a chance? I know you had a late weekend with some family.
We watched it. It was on. We were cooking and eating but it was on, and we watched the North Carolina App State game, and then we started watching that game. But here's the thing: do we know how good Alabama is? Do we know? No, it's week 2, so we don't really know.
Just like everybody else, but obviously they're not as good as Texas.
Right, and so Texas has now climbed right up into the top 4.
Yep.
With Florida State.
With Florida State, and you know who else should be in the top, really close to them, in my opinion? Notre Dame.
Yes.
Notre Dame. Did you get to? I know that game was kind of going on during our game, but did you get to see any highlights? I've been impressed with Notre Dame. They do have 3 games under the belt.
It is their 29th straight win against an ACC opponent. And they have the perfect quarterback for their system. They have Sam Hartman's the perfect quarterback. He only throws it 23, 24 times a game because he doesn't have to.
Yeah, they're solid. They're solid up front, and just like they always have been, the running game is on point, just typical Notre Dame. And like Bailey says, they've plugged in a very veteran, football smart, accurate, game managing. It's like having a coach on the field type quarterback, and they are legit, in my opinion. I think, going back to Alabama, Texas, I think Alabama's quarterback, I'm sitting there trying to think, who does he remind me of? He reminds me of Cam Newton, his athleticism and his arm strength and all this kind of stuff, but he's young. He don't make, like Cade, he's still making, I don't say a lot of mistakes, but some too many mistakes, to be up in there in the top 3 or whatever. But he's really good and really impressive as an athlete. He just needs some experience under his belt. Staying in speaking of another SEC West team, Miami, Texas A&M.
Hey, did you know this was a top 4 matchup?
That's a big game.
It's
Top
a top
4 in
4
what?
matchup in terms of how much NIL money their players receive. Texas A&M is number 1, and that has not worked out for them so far. And
So let's
Miami's
talk.
like 4th.
So and Texas A&M, they've used the transfer portal like crazy, right? It's like a revolving door over there in Aggie land.
Well, they're actually not in the top 10 in that. I looked that up too.
But they're one of the top. I mean, they've definitely made use of the transfer portal.
Yeah,
and
because it's people getting paid to play football now.
We've spent a whole week hearing about how people, the talking heads, saying that Clemson, basically all but coming out and saying Clemson got beat by Duke because Dabo refuses to use the transfer portal. Hello, Texas A&M getting beat by Miami. There's your transfer portal team right there. They ain't beating them. Miami's they're a good team, but they're mediocre, kind of at best, as far as we know.
Well, they're in the top 25 now, but here's the thing. Let's just wait a couple weeks and see how bad or good it is. I really, what it's going to be like at Clemson when Florida State comes rolling in there. You know what that atmosphere is going to be like, and they are good. Florida State's good, but
they are good.
You know what it's going to be like in Death Valley.
Well, okay, so I'll tell you what it's going to be like afterwards. If we lose, people are going to blame Dabo not using transfer portal because Florida State definitely had a really good transfer portal class, whatever they're calling it.
I went on a little bit of a rant yesterday, late afternoon, watching football about do we want college football to be professional football, or do we want you want coaches that are? It is about winning, okay, but it's not all about winning all the time. If you get the right people, you're going to win. All right. And I really think there should be some type of this is going to all change in some way. There's got to be a salary cap like other
well, that's what that's what they're talking about next. There's only a few of people like me and you left that want it to be an amateur sport, that don't want it to turn into the NFL because there are too many people profiting off of college football, and not just the players getting the cut, whatever. We talked about that. Go back and watch that show back in January on how we feel about that. But I'm talking about just the business behind NIL, etc. And there are other people making money off of this stuff, and it makes it more interesting. The media is making more money because there's more money, but what they're doing, they're just doing all kind of bad stuff. It's almost to the point people like me and you talk about where's the educational portion of it. That ship sailed probably a long time ago, but it's almost to the point where do these kids even have an opportunity to go to school because they're hopping from one school? I mean, what's the point in going to class if you're just going to leave when the season's over anyway? There's no incentive.
We've beat this.
Is there even an academic eligibility anymore?
I think they ought to pay back the money, at least the amount of their tuition. Let's move on.
But that's another rant. But they're the SEC West. I am definitely not the first one. Alabama has lost, Texas A&M last week. LSU got beat by Florida State. So the almighty SEC, especially the West, isn't looking so good. And I ran across something once again. This is something that I feel like it stood out. It was ESPN exposing their SEC bias. Let's listen up.
They have Ohio State, they have Clemson, they have USC on the schedule. They're going to have a lot to do with how this season goes. And I'm proud of you guys because you stayed positive with who we learned about, because on the other end of the learning lesson is Texas A&M now. I mean, you look now at the top 3 teams in the SEC West, LSU to Florida State, Alabama to Texas A&M thumped on the road at Miami.
You just gave us credit for staying positive. Right. Where do you go?
Right to negative.
Right to negative.
All it is, it's presenting the facts of the situation that happened on the football
field. Just couldn't stay positive. Huh?
All right.
So Matt Barr got fussed at by Joey Galloway, and the phrase was not stay positive when he's pointing out the obvious to the SEC. Maybe I'm the only one that sees it. Maybe I'm making up stuff, but it happened right there on.
It could be in your subconscious.
Yeah, it could be, but I'm going to stick with my theory that he called him out on air because he wasn't keeping up. When he was saying being positive, that's ESPN talk for bias to the SEC.
Right, there you go.
So,
all right.
There we go.
I like it.
All right. But what is it? What's the most important thing about what we do here?
Fun. Food. Tailgating.
That's right. So it's time for the good and bad fan experiences of the week. The number one good is our tailgate. Now, Bailey, we had a lot of people. Who do you remember dropped by yesterday?
Well, we had former guest Chris Carter drop by.
Yep. Chris Carter, catcher for the Tigers back in the day and current athletic director at Woodmont High School, dropped by. Who else? The Hat.
The Hat was rolling around on his golf cart.
Yeah.
And he came
the Hat
by.
Came by.
So, and your
Check
brother?
it out live on. Yeah, he went live on his Facebook. So you can, about the 3.5 minute mark, I believe, in a live where he rolls up on the Fun Fans tailgate. And we had some other family and friends stop by. And here's a couple of clips of how we do's it at the tailgate. And there's a lot of preparation that goes in for, you got to lay a good foundation for having fun. All right, what are we doing, Bailey?
Huh?
What are we doing?
Bug prevention and control.
Treating the tailgate spot. You got to treat it right. You got to treat it. You got to treat the tail. I mean, we're going to be there for hours and over in the next fall for 6 more Saturdays after 7 total. We can't have bugs and stuff all up in our space. And then, give people a little taste of the other thing that happens at the Fun Fans tailgate. The visiting team always gives us a little parade. Here's what it looked like yesterday. All right, so this happens every week at the Fun Fans podcast tailgate. The visiting team gets to ride by. It's usually not this much of a parade. Trying to help out. All right. It's the Charleston Southern Buccaneers. The only team that has shot us the bird on their way by were the Gamecocks. Just throwing that out there. But yep, Fun Fans get to see the visiting team every Saturday. Go Tigers. So that's always fun. Did you see your CPAP water at the beginning of the video?
Yeah. That's funny.
So that was funny. So that little taste of what happened at the tailgate, you can see some pictures on our social media, but that is definitely a good thing that happened this past Saturday. Was we had a really, really good tailgate. The bad was the temperature. Sure.
It was hot.
Okay, so it was unreal. So I've been talking on here about a surprise that was going to happen at the tailgate, but based on the forecast, I canceled. Okay, I had, if you can't see, if you're doing the audio only, I was going to have inflatable swimming pools at the tailgate. I was going to buy like 10 bags of ice, let it melt on the ride up there. And, normally anticipating the sun and the heat, and we'd have something to put our feet in, to splash on our face, keep us cool. And I'm like, man, they're talking about thunderstorms. I don't need a swimming pool. I need a poncho and umbrellas and whatnot and extra tents.
Can I just tell you that was maybe as hot as I have been at Clemson University yesterday?
It was hot. So it was, I nixed the pool. We went with the poncho. And then by about 1 o'clock, I'm thinking, well, even if the rain holds off, that'll be great, but it'll be cloudy and breezy or whatever. No.
James, what did I tell you? When we looked at the forecast this week, you said, oh, it's going to rain. It's going to rain all day. We're going to do this. I said, I'm showing 30% chance of rain. And that means that there is a 70% chance that it's not going to rain.
Well, I'm going to start using your weatherman.
That's my logic.
Well, mine was saying the other way. The Weather Channel got it wrong. Wrong. Even Friday night.
I'll share the app with you.
12 hours away from when the tailgate was going to start, they were calling for a 70% chance of rain and saying it was going to be a heavy downpour. What we had,
but that is in like a 100-mile radius of the spot that on the Weather Channel wherever you put on that map, it's like a big circle. So yeah, it rained within that circle.
Wow, well, that's false advertising. So anyway, so the bad, not just the heat's, then the forecast. All right, back to some good. There were a lot of games this weekend that were really good games. I think the A&M and the Texas, the games we talked about were good games, but there were some other games that went into overtime that were good games. North Carolina, App State. I'm gonna tell you right now, those cats should play every year because they're always putting on a show.
That was a great game.
It was another weekend of great football. All right, the rain delays up and down the East Coast, and Bailey has provided us with a where's that picture?
I don't know. I sent it to you.
Got it right here. Here's a screen.
Yeah. NC State's video board went out. Okay, $15 million video board. You can't buy a surge protector. I mean, it went out and it never came back on. Over 7,000 square feet, 75 speakers, and it went kaput.
Yeah, that was bad. There were some games that had as much as a 5-hour plus rain delay, and that is not a fun fan experience at all. I've been through those things. So, all right, I've got the next good. This one's interesting. The next good is Cocky's new entrance down there in Columbia, and the next bad is also Cocky's new entrance down there in Columbia. And I'm obviously I'm biased. But I'm trying to take my bias out and look at that as I'm gonna get excited. Did you see Cocky's new entrance?
I saw on Twitter the little choo-choo train bringing him in, right?
Yes.
But what was wrong with his last entrance? Because that's one of the best mascot entrances I've ever seen. And I'm giving credit to the Gamecock. It's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, see, they did something. If you watch the whole thing, it ends up being very similar. But so he drives the choo-choo train in to the stadium from the opposite side of the field where the players are going to run in, gets out of the train, runs backwards through the tunnel of cheerleaders and whatnot where the players and like disappears, but then re-emerges via smoke and fireworks from I guess it's a cockaboose that the little train thing is pulling. So it's kind of cool, and they had a good thing going.
His last entrance was way better.
Yeah, it's like a magic trick or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I would be interested to see how we got any Gamecock fans that listen. Feel free to, say, yeah, I liked it, or no, I didn't. I wish I would have stayed with whatever, because obviously my opinion matters not. But that goes under the good and bad category, fan experience of the week, in my opinion. And the last good thing is going to be that we're going to spare everyone of the Porta-John experience from this weekend. Trust me, you do not want to know
it was lackluster.
Anything. Yeah, it happened at the Porta-John this week. All right, so that concludes our good and bad Fun Fans segment of the week. In other sporting news, Coco Gauff wins the Women's U.S. Open, the first teen since Serena Williams in 1999. That's awesome. She's pretty good. She's an understatement.
Dealt with I think she's dealt with some mental health issues and things, but it was an emotional win.
Yeah, very much so. And the teenagers. So that's about everything's emotional for those young folks. Golf, no. Oh, the O's. All right, it's time for the Bailey Jackson Oriole update of the week.
Still number one, baby. Still number one.
So we want to put that
currently in a rain delay, but getting beat today, and it was like in Boston, it was like pouring. I've never seen major leagues try to finish a game, but they finally had to pull the tarp. There's no way they're finishing that game tonight.
Had to do it, huh?
Yep.
All right. Well, we're just going to go ahead and put this out there because, you never know who's listening or who can share. If the Orioles make it to the World Series, the Fun Fans, we need 2 tickets. That's it. We're not going to get stingy. Not going to try to take a crowd or our families or anything like that. But we need some tickets.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3.
Maybe 3. Or if we get 2, I just won't go. If we get 3, I'll go. You can take Wit or something.
Okay.
But yeah, so just go and put out there. If we're supporting and promoting the Orioles, hopefully they'll make it to the World Series. Least we can get is a couple of tickets to one of the games, right? There's more than one game in the World Series.
Maybe we could get a media pass.
There you go. Who's hosting this? They don't do it like NFL.
Games, they don't. It's a series. Each team.
I'm playing
hosts.
ignorant there.
I know you are.
I know. Hey, but speaking of, the NFL kicked off this week. That's an entirely different podcast, but I like the way one guy said the road to Vegas. You know, it's kind of cool to know where you're going to play. Well, they only play one, so you know where your championship game is going to be. So the road to Vegas started today, but we are not an NFL podcast, and we're not going to start being an NFL podcast. But speaking of what we are going to do, we're going to come right back this Wednesday night at 8:30 for some thoughts on Clemson and the upcoming week 3 games. But before that, we want to mention our friends at
Diamond Edge Products. They have mastered the diamond laser engraving process, and they can put anything on items such as license plates, yard signs, tumblers, water bottles, and more. It's high quality. It lasts forever. You can go to diamondedgeproducts.com, or you can email Jalen at diamondedgeproducts.com for more information and get your officially licensed Clemson University stuff and swag for your game day, for your truck, for your yard. They have it all. So check them out at diamondedgeproducts.com.
Awesome stuff. And we share all this stuff on our social media. So make sure you go and like and follow and share and Facebook or whatever, and you'll run into all this stuff anytime. We had a great show. We're happy to get back on the winning track. Bottom line is it's a dub. Put it in the books, move on to next week. The tailgate did not disappoint, and that's what it's all about. Love seeing the pictures, the Gamecock fans and the Clemson fans with their friends and family tailgating, because that's what it's all about. That and the kids getting an education, in our opinion, and then there's football games just mixed in there. But we're happy to be here each and every week to talk about something like that. It's shaping up to have some parity. That might be another topic. The football season shaping up to have a little bit of parity, which can be a good thing. And we'll be right here with you twice a week to ride that roller coaster. And speaking of, we talked about United Road Cup coming in a couple of weeks. Next week, we're going to have country music singer Lee Newton with us. So we're going to look forward to having her next week. But thanks again for checking us out each and every week. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media and share, please. We would appreciate it. All archived shows can be found on the Fanboys website at thefanboys.com, and also posted on our Facebook and Twitter. On behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, J Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson.
The season's not over. You have to believe to achieve. They're going to run the table. National champions. Go Tigers.
We're just getting started. We're just getting started. Go Tigers. Thanks for joining us.